The room was all glass, all power, until a tiny voice detonated the silence. "You're my dad." Every executive froze as 6-year-old Lily Parker sprinted straight past security and wrapped her arms around Grant Harrington, the billionaire CEO, like she'd done it 1,000 times. Grant's hand hovered in the air, unsure whether to push her away or catch her. The boardroom men in suits' laptops, open million-dollar decisions on the screen, went dead quiet. Lily tilted her face up, eyes wet but fearless. "Everyone's scared of you," she blurted. "But I'm not. You look like you need a hug." A nervous chuckle died in someone's throat. Grant didn't laugh. He didn't yell. He just stared at the child clinging to him like she'd cracked open a door he'd welded shut years ago, back when his wife Claire died, and the warmth drained out of him for good. At the doorway stood Lily's mother, Elena Parker, in a janitor's uniform, breathless and mortified. "I'm so sorry," she ran. Grant raised one hand. "Not to threaten. To stop the room." "Cancel the meeting," he said, voice low. Final. Then to Lily. "What's your name?" "Lily," she sniffed. "And I didn't mean to mess up your work. I had to find you." Grant's jaw tightened. He glanced at Elena, really looked at her, and something unreadable flickered across his face. "Come with me," he said quietly, "both of you." And just like that, the coldest man in the building walked out of his own boardroom, holding a little girl's hand. Grant didn't lead them to some cozy lounge. He marched them down a private hallway, where the carpet swallowed footsteps, and the air smelled like polished wood and expensive cologne. A few assistants tried to speak clipboard in hand, panic in their eyes, but one look from him, and they scattered. Inside his office, the city stretched behind him in a wall of windows. Grant Harrington moved like a man who'd trained himself not to feel. No family photos, no messy desk, just clean lines and cold light. Elena stood by the door, twisting the hem of her janitor's shirt like it might keep her anchored. "Mr. Harrington, I swear I didn't plan this," she said, voice shaking. "Lily, she's a sweet kid, but she gets ideas, and—" "I asked for an explanation," Grant cut in, calm but sharp, not an apology. Lily climbed onto the leather chair like it was a playground slide, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. She swung her legs and stared at him with that unblinking courage only a child can have. Elena swallowed hard. "I'm new here," she said. "Night shift? Cleaning floors nobody notices. We keep our heads down." Grant's eyes flicked to her hands, raw around the knuckles. Nails trimmed short, the kind of hands that scrub and scrub until the skin stops protesting. He looked away fast, like the sight bothered him. "And your father?" he asked, Lily, voice turning careful around the word. Lily shrugged. "Mom says he was someone important. Someone who left." Elena flinched, Lily. "It's okay," Lily insisted, then turned right back to Grant. "But you feel familiar." She pressed a small palm to her chest, like she was checking her own heartbeat. "Like when I see you, my stomach does this funny flip." Grant's jaw tightened. His gaze drifted to the far corner of the room, where a framed photo sat half-hidden behind a stack of reports so out of place it was almost embarrassing. A woman with bright eyes and a soft smile. Claire. Gone for years, but still there like a ghost he refused to name. For a moment, Grant's mask cracked. Not enough for anyone to call it emotion. Just a flicker, like a light turning on in a house that's been empty too long. Elena noticed it. She lowered her voice. "After Claire passed, people said you changed." Grant's eyes snapped back. "People talk." "They do," Elena said, quieter now. "And they don't understand what grief does to a person." Lily slid off the chair and walked up to him, slow and steady, like she was approaching a skittish dog. She reached for his hand without asking. His fingers twitched, ready to pull back. But then, almost against his will, he let her take it. Her hand was warm. His was cold. "You don't have to be scary all the time," Lily whispered. Grant stared down at their joined hands, as if he didn't recognize the man allowing this. Then he cleared his throat, voice rougher than before. "Tomorrow," he said to Elena, but with his eyes still on Lily. "Bring her back." "Same time." Elena blinked. So why? Grant finally looked up, and for the first time his gaze wasn't steel. It was something older. Tired. Human. Because he said, choosing each word like it weighed a pound, I need to know why she came running into my life. Like she belonged here. The next 20 minutes felt like a storm trapped inside a luxury building. Outside Grant Harrington's office, the executive floor buzzed like a shaken beehive. People whispered behind palms. Phones lit up. Someone in a navy suit hissed, "Did that kid really just call him Dad?" Another voice snapped back. Not in the hallway. Grant didn't hear any of it. Or maybe he did and didn't care. Inside, Elena kept Lily close like a hand on a runaway balloon. "Sweetheart, we're leaving. Right now." "You can't do that again," she murmured, trying to smile through the panic. Lily leaned toward Grant's desk, squinting at the skyline behind him. "You can see for miles from here," she said. "My mom and I live where you can see the alley and the trash cans." Elena's cheeks burned. "Lily." Grant's eyes flicked to Elena, quick assessing like he was filing away every detail he'd ignored about people like her for years. The worn soles of her shoes, the tiny soap stains on her sleeve, the way her shoulders stayed hunched, even in a room this huge, as if she expected to be yelled at any second. "Security will escort you," he said automatically. Elena stiffened. "Please don't. She didn't steal anything. She didn't hurt anyone." Grant paused. The old him would have kept his voice cold. The old him would have ended this with a signature and a dismissal. Instead, he exhaled slowly, like he was trying not to break something fragile inside his own chest. "No escort," he corrected. "Just make sure you get downstairs safely." Lily stepped forward again, fearless as ever. "You're not mad." Grant looked down at her. Really looked. 6 years old, missing a front tooth, strands of hair escaping her ponytail. The kind of kid who should have been worrying about cartoons and snacks, not barging into boardrooms full of strangers. "I should be," he admitted. "But I'm not." Lily nodded, like that made perfect sense. "That's 'cause you're sad," she said plainly. "When people are sad a long time, they forget how to be nice." Elena sucked in a breath. "Lily, you can't." "Yes, I can," Lily insisted, turning back to Grant. "Everyone treats you like you're a monster, like you're made of ice. But my teacher says people get icy when they've been hurt." The words landed hard, not because they were sophisticated, because they were true. Grant's gaze drifted again to that half-hidden photo on the shelf. Claire, smiling at a beach years ago, whined in her hair, his arm around her shoulders, back when he still laughed without forcing it. He swallowed. His throat worked like the emotion was physical. "Who told you to come here?" he asked quietly. "No one," Lily said. "I just knew." Elena's voice cracked. "Mr. Harrington, we'll go. I promise you'll never see us again." That was the moment. The tiny shift nobody in the hallway would have believed. Grant didn't like the way she said again, as if people like her had to disappear to keep powerful men comfortable. As if her whole existence was an inconvenience. He straightened, slow and deliberate. "You'll come back tomorrow." Elena blinked. "Sir, please. I can't risk my job." Grant's eyes stayed on Lily, but his words were for Elena. "Your job is safe." Elena's lips parted, stunned. Lily grinned victory, flashing across her face. "See, not scary." Grant almost smiled. Almost. Instead, he cleared his throat, turning toward the door like he needed movement to keep himself steady. "Go home," he said, voice low. "Get some rest. And tomorrow, we talk." Elena took Lily's hand and backed out carefully, as if any sudden motion might shatter the moment. In the hallway, the whispers dropped to a hush as people stared. Lily waved at them like she owned the place. Then, just before the elevator doors closed, she looked up at Grant one last time. "Don't be lonely tonight," she called softly. "Okay." The doors slid shut. Grant stood there in the silent hallway, the richest man in the building, suddenly feeling like he was the one who'd been caught. Because the truth hit him like a punch. That little girl hadn't just interrupted a meeting. She'd interrupted the life he'd been using as a hiding place. Before we jump in, hit like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because what happened the next morning, it didn't just shake the building, it shook Grant Harrington. At 9 a.m. on the dot, Elena arrived with Lily, both dressed like they were going to church. Elena's hair was neatly pinned back. Lily wore a little cardigan and held a crumpled drawing in her fist like it was a golden ticket. They stood in the marble lobby looking up at the towering logo, and Elena whispered, "Remember, quiet voice. No running." Lily nodded so hard her ponytail bounced. Upstairs, Grant had been staring at his calendar for 10 minutes, pretending he wasn't waiting. When his assistant announced them, his voice came out too fast. "Send them in." The door opened. Lily stepped in first, eyes wide, taking in the expensive carpet and the city beyond the windows like it was a movie set. Elena hovered behind her tense. Grant didn't sit. He leaned against the edge of his desk, sleeves rolled once, as if trying on a version of himself that didn't feel natural. "You came," he said. Elena gave a small nod. "We didn't want to cause trouble." Lily marched forward and slapped her drawing on his desk. It was stick figures in bright crayon. One tall man, one woman, one little girl holding hands beneath a huge sun. Above them, in wobbly letters, "My family." Grant stared at it like he'd been handed something fragile and dangerous. Elena reached for it, embarrassed. She likes to draw stories. Lily planted her hands on her hips. "It's not a story, it's what's supposed to happen." Grant's throat tightened. He looked away just for a second toward that tucked-away photo of Claire, then back to Lily like he was choosing which past to survive. "You said yesterday you had to find me," he said softly. "Why?" Lily didn't blink. "Because you looked lonely, and lonely is heavy. My grandma says you can see it in people's eyes." Elena's face fell at the mention of Grandma. Something tender and tired crossed her features like life had already taken too much and kept asking for more. Grant noticed. "It's just you two?" he asked. Elena hesitated. "Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir," he said almost impatiently, then caught himself. "Not today." He walked around the desk, slowly stopping a few feet from Lily. Close enough to feel her presence. Far enough to still pretend he had control. "I don't know what you think you know," he said. "But walking into a boardroom and saying something like that, it has consequences." Lily's chin lifted. "I know." People got quiet, like the whole room stopped breathing. Grant's lips twitched, half a smile, half a grimace. "Exactly." Elena stepped forward, voice low. "Mr. Grant, she's not trying to trap you. We don't want anything. I just want to keep my job and raise my daughter in peace." Grant studied her, and for the first time his gaze softened in a way that felt almost unfamiliar to him. "Peace," he repeated like it was a word from another language. Then he looked at Lily. "If I let you come back," he said carefully, "you follow rules. No more running. No more shouting in public." Lily nodded fast. "Deal!" Grant held out his hand, hesitated, then lowered it to Lily's level. She took it instantly, small fingers wrapping around his like it belonged there. And right then something shifted. Grant Harrington, the man everyone feared, turned to Elena and said the sentence nobody expected. "I want her here tomorrow, too, as my guest, not as a problem to be managed." Elena's eyes widened. "Why?" Grant glanced down at Lily's drawing, then back up, voice quiet, almost raw. "Because he said I haven't felt this building breathe in years, and I'm starting to think she didn't come here by accident." By day 3, the building had a new addiction. Gossip. Not about stock prices, not about mergers, about the janitor and the little girl who'd somehow made Grant Harrington, the coldest man in Midtown, start holding doors open like a normal human being. And that's when the family showed up. It happened in the executive dining room, a place so quiet you could hear silverware blink against china. Grant sat at a corner table with Lily, who was carefully peeling an orange like it was a serious job. Elena stood nearby, posture stiff, ready to apologize for simply existing. Then heels clicked across the marble. Uncle Grant, a voice purred sweet on the surface sharp underneath. Vanessa Caldwell swept in like she owned the air, perfectly pressed dress, perfect smile, perfect timing. Right behind her came her brother Derek Caldwell, wearing that entitled confidence people get when they've never worried about rent in their lives. Vanessa's eyes landed on Lily first, not with curiosity, with calculation. "Well," she said, drawing the word out, "so it's true." Grant didn't stand. He didn't greet them. He didn't even blink. Vanessa. Derek. Derek chuckled under his breath. This is unexpected. The board is talking. Investors are talking. Staff are talking. You've got a kid calling you dad in front of senior leadership. Lily looked up, orange in hand. Hi, she said, polite as can be. Vanessa's smile tightened. Aren't you adorable? She leaned down, voice coated in fake warmth. And who's your mother, sweetheart? Elena stepped forward instantly. That's me, Elena Parker. Vanessa's gaze flicked over Elena's uniform like it was a stain. Right. The cleaning staff. Elena's jaw clenched, but she stayed quiet. She'd learned long ago that answering back to people like Vanessa only made the fall harder. Grant's voice cut through the room. Watch your tone. Vanessa blinked, surprised, like she hadn't heard that tone from him in years. Then she recovered fast. I'm just concerned. You've been different. Canceling meetings, letting outsiders roam executive floors. She smiled again, but her eyes didn't. You know how this looks. Grant's gaze stayed steady. I don't care how it looks. Derek slid into the chair across from him without being invited. You should. Uncle Grant, we're family. We've held things together since Claire passed. The estate, the charities, the board relationships. Vanessa cut in, soft but lethal. And the future. You've been very clear for years about your legacy. There it was. The real reason they were here. Legacy, money, control. Lily looked between them, sensing the temperature drop. She scooted closer to Elena, her small shoulders pulling in. Elena whispered, It's okay, but her voice didn't convince anyone. Vanessa folded her hands like she was delivering a polite warning. We just want to protect you, Uncle Grant. People will take advantage. They'll claim anything. A child, a story, a sob scene in a boardroom. She glanced at Lily again. It happens. Grant's face went still in a way Elena recognized as dangerous, like a door locking. You're not protecting me, he said quietly. You're protecting your position. Derek laughed, forced. Come on, don't be dramatic. Grant stood. The chair legs scraped the floor like a line being drawn. He looked at Vanessa and Derek the way he used to look at hostile negotiators. This child is my guest, he said. Her mother is under my protection while she works here. And if either of you speaks to them like they're disposable again, Vanessa's smile cracked. Under your protection, she repeated, offended. Uncle Grant, don't be ridiculous. You're not thinking clearly. Grant leaned in just enough that Vanessa's perfume couldn't hide her fear. I've never been clearer. Lily tugged his sleeve, small voice, steady. Mr. Grant, are they mad at me? Grant looked down at her, and something softened fast, like a match struck in the dark. No, he said. They're mad because they're losing control. Then he turned back to his family voice, calm, final. You wanted my attention, he said. Now you have it. But you don't get to decide who belongs near me. And as Vanessa and Derek stood there, stunned, silent, Elena realized something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Lily hadn't just walked into a boardroom. She'd walked into a war. Vanessa Caldwell didn't storm out of that dining room. She glided, smile on, eyes cold, like she'd already decided how this would end. And the scary part? She didn't need to raise her voice to hurt people. She just needed a hallway, a whisper, and the right pair of hands willing to do the dirty work. That afternoon, Elena was back on her shift, mop bucket gloves, quiet dignity, trying to pretend her heart wasn't still pounding from the morning. Lily sat in a small waiting area outside Grant's office, with crayons and a juice box, humming to herself, like the world wasn't dangerous. Vanessa watched from a distance, tucked behind a column phone pressed to her ear. Do it clean, she murmured. No mess, no witnesses who matter. Downstairs in one of the private guest suites reserved for important family, a jewelry case sat open on a vanity diamonds winking under soft lights. Vanessa's. Conveniently placed. Conveniently unattended. A few minutes later, a nervous staff member, one of those people who lived off paycheck to paycheck and didn't get to say no to rich relatives, crossed paths with Elena in a service corridor. Ms. Parker, the woman said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Can you help me carry these linens upstairs? My back is killing me. Elena hesitated. I still have my assigned floor. It'll take one trip, the woman insisted, already pushing a cart toward her. Please. Elena sighed the way tired people do when they're always being asked for one more thing and followed. On the ride up, the staff member chatted too much, laughed too loudly, and kept brushing close enough to bump Elena's cart, close enough to accidentally hang a garment bag over Elena's cleaning tote. Elena didn't notice, because honest people don't walk around expecting traps. 10 minutes later, Elena returned to her floor. She went back to her routine wipe, scrub, rinse, repeat, until a sharp voice sliced through the corridor. "Stop right there." 2 security guards approached, faces stiff, radios crackling. Elena's stomach dropped. Is something wrong? One guard pointed at her tote. "We need to check your bag." Elena blinked, confused. "Why?" "Just open it," the second guard said, not unkind but final. Elena's hands shook as she unzipped the tote, and the hallway seemed to tilt. Inside, wedged beneath her gloves and disinfectant wipes, was a velvet pouch, heavy and unmistakable. The guard pulled it out, opened it, and the diamonds flashed like tiny knives. Elena's breath vanished. "That's not mine," she whispered. A voice floated in from behind them, sweet as syrup. "Oh my. There it is." Vanessa stepped forward, one hand pressed to her chest, like she was heartbroken. Derek trailed behind her, wearing the smug look of a man who'd never once been punished for cruelty. Vanessa sighed. "I didn't want to believe it. I truly didn't." Elena stared at her realization blooming like ice in her veins. "You?" Vanessa tilted her head. "Elena, please, don't make this uglier than it needs to be." Elena's voice cracked. "I didn't steal anything. I swear on my daughter's life." "Using the child now," Derek muttered, shaking his head like Elena was the problem. The guards exchanged looks. One of them spoke quietly, almost apologetic. "Ma'am, we have to file an incident report." Elena backed up a step, as if distance could change reality. "Call Mr. Harrington?" she begged. "Please. He'll know I wouldn't." Vanessa's eyes sharpened. "Grant is in meetings, and frankly, he's been distracted lately." Elena's throat burned. "My little girl is upstairs. She's waiting for me." Vanessa's smile returned, small, satisfied. "Then maybe you should have thought of that before putting your hands in places they don't belong." Elena's knees went weak. She grabbed the wall to steady herself, fighting tears she refused to give these people. But as security began to escort her away, she heard a tiny voice down the hall. "Mom." Lily stood there frozen, clutching her crayon, drawing her My Family picture, now crumpled in her fist. Elena tried to smile through shaking lips. "Baby, go back to the chair. Please." Lily's eyes darted to the diamonds in the guard's hand, then to Vanessa's calm face, then back to her mother. And in that instant, Lily understood something no 6-year-old should ever have to understand. This wasn't an accident. This was a hit. And her mom was getting taken down, right in front of her. Lily didn't cry at first. She did something scarier. She went quiet. While security escorted Elena toward the service elevator, Lily stood there clutching that crumpled My Family drawing like it was the last real thing in a hallway that suddenly felt fake. Vanessa's perfume hung in the air. Derek's smirk didn't even try to hide. Elena turned her head over her shoulder, eyes shining. "Baby, please, stay with Mr. Grant. Don't move. Don't." The elevator doors swallowed her sentence. Ding, gone. For half a second, Lily looked like a kid who'd lost her mom in a grocery store. Then her little jaw tightened. She spun on her heel and ran. Not a playful run, not a kid run, a mission. She bolted down the corridor, past stunned assistants, past men in suits who stepped aside like the building itself didn't know what to do with a small girl carrying a giant truth. "Hey, sweetheart," someone called. Lily didn't stop. She didn't even look back. She burst into the executive area and found Grant Harrington's assistant outside his office. The woman lifted a hand. "Honey, you can't go in there." "My mom is gone," Lily blurted, words crashing out of her. "They took her. They said she stole. She didn't steal. They're lying." The assistant's face drained of color. "Lily, slow down. What do you mean they took her?" Lily shoved the drawing forward like evidence. Her hands were shaking now. "Vanessa did it. She hates us. She wants us gone. Please, please tell Mr. Grant." Inside the office, Grant was in the middle of a call. Calm voice, business voice. Then the door flew open. Lily ran straight to him and grabbed the front of his jacket with both fists like she had to physically anchor him to the moment. "Mr. Grant," she yelled, tears finally spilling. "They took my mom. They're saying she stole diamonds. She smells like lemons and soap, not like stealing. The call went silent. Grant didn't blink. He didn't ask her to lower her voice. He didn't tell her to step back. He stood up so fast his chair rolled backward. What did you say? His voice wasn't loud. It was worse, flat and deadly. Lily wiped her face with her sleeve like she was angry at the tears. Security. They opened her bag and boom, diamonds. And Vanessa was there smiling, like when someone pushes you and then tells the teacher you fell. Grant's eyes lifted to his assistant. Where? The assistant swallowed. Service corridor near the guest suites, sir. Grant's jaw flexed once. He grabbed his coat, then paused because Lily was still gripping him, trembling. He crouched in front of her eye level now, the billionaire suddenly looking like a man who'd forgotten how to breathe. Listen to me, he said, slow and clear. You did the right thing. You hear me? Lily's voice cracked. I don't want my mom to disappear. She won't. Grant's hand hovered, then settled carefully on her shoulder. Solid. Protective. Not while I'm standing. He straightened and turned toward the door, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Call legal, he snapped to his assistant, and head of security. Now. Then he looked down at Lily again, and his voice softened just enough to keep her from breaking. You stay right behind me, he said. No running. Lily nodded hard. I can do that. Grant opened the door and walked into the hallway like a storm wearing a suit. And as they moved, an angry, powerful man and a 6-year-old girl with a crumpled drawing, every person who saw them felt it. This wasn't damage control anymore. This was a rescue. Because somewhere in the belly of that building, Elena Parker was being branded a thief, and Grant Harrington was about to remind everyone exactly what happens when you try to bury an innocent person. Right in front of him. Grant didn't just handle it, he ended it. In the security office, Elena sat pale and silent, hands folded, like she was trying to hold herself together. Vanessa hovered nearby with that fake, wounded look, until the door slammed open and Grant walked in with Lily right behind him, small fingers locked onto his sleeve like a lifeline. Play the footage, Grant ordered. A guard hesitated. Sir, the cameras near the guest suites were. Play the footage. His voice didn't rise. It sharpened. Minutes later, the truth spilled out on screen, the staffer brushing too close, the garment bag draped over Elena's tote, the subtle swap quick enough to miss if you didn't want to see it. Vanessa's smile disappeared frame by frame. Elena covered her mouth. Oh my God. Grant turned to Vanessa and Derek. Out. Today. He didn't yell. He didn't negotiate. You're done here. And if you ever come near them again, my lawyers will make sure you regret the day you learned my name. Vanessa tried one last move. Uncle Grant, you're overreacting. Grant stepped closer. I'm reacting to cruelty. He faced Elena, and the ice finally cracked. I'm sorry, he said plain and raw. You deserved safety, not suspicion. Then he knelt to Lily. You saved your mom. Lily sniffed, eyes shining. So, she's not going away? Grant's hand settled gently on her shoulder. Not anymore. That week, Elena wasn't just reinstated. Grant placed her in a new role, helping oversee a children's outreach program the company funded. And in a moment that made the entire building hold its breath, he signed papers that made it official. Lily Harrington, his daughter, his heir. Sometimes the world will try to erase honest people with a lie because lies are fast and power can be loud. But truth has a strange way of finding a voice, and sometimes that voice is a child who refuses to let love be punished. If this story hit your heart, tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up for someone when it was scary? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because you never know who needs this reminder today. One brave moment can change an entire life.